I'm going to be joined in the first hour by contributing editor to the New Internationalist magazine, Jamie Kelsey-fry. And we've just been having a good old chinwag out here on our sofas. And he is bouncing. He's full of beans, quite literally. Can't wait to get talking to him. He's brought in a really, really good selection of stories. If there is anything that you want to comment on in the next hour, the number to call is... I can't turn his mic up just yet because Jamie Kelsey-fry is singing away to that, The Rivers of Babylon by Boney M. What a way to start a show. And welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic to be back here. I'm sure most of the people who are listening to that were also singing that. You just cannot help but sing along to Boney M. Come on. Life is brilliant.
What more do I want than my own Saturday night show and to be able to start a show with Boney M? I've made it.
To end it with, I don't know, Rod Stewart?
If I wanted to, if Baron Matt can find it on the system, it'll happen.
Look at the power. The power of Yasmeen. Let's go.
Let's go.
This feels dangerous.
This.
Watch out, listeners.
Jamie Kelsey-fry, how are you?
I'm quite quiet and a little bit shy.
Yeah.
No, I'm all right. I'm having a lovely time, thank you, Yasmeen. Yeah, nice time. My partner's just come back she's working in Berlin at the moment, so she's come back for the weekend. So that's very exciting. What a flurry of house cleaning was going on yesterday. Oh, my goodness.
I thought, I'm going to say something, but it'll get me into trouble. I was about to say, did you go feral in the time that she was away?
She will say, absolutely, you should have seen the bathroom.
Did you leave your pants on the floor?
No, look, come on, look, we've got listeners.
It's a Saturday evening. We have to entertain them, but not with those thoughts.
Not with my pants.
No. Because it's been a little while since we had you in, for those who don't know, talk about the day job and the writing job and all of that, so we know what you do.
Well, main thing at the moment is I'm the contributing editor for New Internationalist magazine. It's been going for 40 years. It's totally independent. You know, it's a not-for-profit workers' cooperative, so there's no owners.
Right.
And we only take advertising from sort of ethically, morally sound stuff. So that leaves us with, I don't know, the Quakers and a hippie festival and knit your own yoghurt jumpers.
some organic chocolate.
No, exactly. Well, actually, we do have a brilliant free trade online free trade store. You know, so it's all products that just go straight to the people who've made it in the countries that it comes from. But it's a magazine that focuses on the majority world and the kind of internationalist movement for sort of global justice, and it's really exciting to work for them. And the reason when we were talking outside, you were saying, because they're quite famous, you know, they won loads of awards, as you know, and they're very erudite. And you were saying, you must be sort of very bright or something, and I'm not. The thing is, they are very, very bright and really sort of their research is extraordinary, and they go to work with all the people in the majority world to create amazing material, really illuminating, startling material. But they employed me because I'm mouthy, as you can already tell, right? And my wife and I published a school textbook with them.
I could say ditto here.
Yeah, exactly. but we published a book with them about 5 years ago, a school textbook called the RACS Active Citizenship Toolkit. And we had a meeting with them before we went away to get married in India, in the eyes of the god Shiva in Varanasi. And we had a quick meeting with these very sort of academic, very bright, lovely people from the Internationalists. And they're very quiet, you know, from Oxford. Anyway, so we had a meeting with them, and we were chatting for a while. And then we went outside to have a fag, because that was back in the days of tobacco. Mm-hmm. And when we came back, they said, talking with you is like being in a wind tunnel. And you have the skills that we don't have. Would you consider, you know, being a sort of voice for New Internationalists? And it was like, an absolute honour. I've been a fan since I was 15.
So they did hire you because but you're obviously passionate about the things you write about as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
It's sort of spilling out of your every pore. but that's fantastic because to see, I don't know, when you can hear and sort of feel someone's enthusiasm and passion and stuff, you just get so wrapped up in the moment of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, and even just the chat we had outside.
It was brilliant. Yeah. Oh well, actually, that was a lovely chat. Actually, let's see if that comes out over the air, because that was really cool what you were doing.
Well too. But before we dive into the stories, what I should remind everybody is that this is a conversation between all of us. So if you're listening and you want to have your say, it's 0207 224 2000. It's 81333 on the text. Start your message with the word London. And we are, of course, on Twitter at BBC London 949. You can also find me on Twitter at Yasmeen Kahn 1. Yes, get those calls coming in because it's about hearing your voice as well as ours. So, Jamie Kelsey-fry, I have this thing where I can't just call you Jamie. I have to call you...
does that. I know. Jenny Barnett was always like, you're Jamie Kelsey-fry, Jamie Kelsey-fry.
You are Jamie Kelsey-fry.
It's quite frightening.
It's just the way it is. Where would you like to start?
We've got Actually, you know what? Let's go for it. Actually, I want to start with the front page of the Independent, which is this climate story. There are different types of stories. There are lighter stories coming up, but I think this is really important. Basically, the news has come out from NASA, so the latest research from NASA. This is going to be the hottest, and we've heard this a lot, right? This is going to be the hottest year on record, okay? But what's fascinating, or terrifying, whichever way you want to take it, the last, let's say, 2015, 2014 and 2010, okay? They are the 3 hottest years since records began. Okay, so that's this year, last year and 2010, all right? And 9 out of the 10 warmest years on record have been in the 21st century. That's
scary.
Yeah, you know, and there's been a huge industry, as hopefully a lot of your listeners will know this, but there's been a huge industry for ages paid for by the oil companies and the fossil fuel companies to spread doubt, to sow seeds of doubt, you know, and you know about this. You know, there's a great story about the tobacco. In 1954, it was proved that gives you lung cancer. So all the tobacco companies are going, what the hell are we going to do? And they employed at that time one of the early PR companies, public relations companies, to help them out, Knowles and Hilton, who produced this great paper, which was a frank statement about cigarettes from the Association of Responsible Scientists Academy or something. And all they'd done was invented a scientific sounding board.
Their own academy.
Exactly. And these tactics, you know, and Knowles and Hilton are famous. They actually have, as part of their modus operandi that they're proud of, you know, we deal in doubt. Same companies have been responsible.
That's quite a strapline.
Yeah, I know, to be proud of that stuff. It's worrying, right? So the same kind of companies have been operating, paid for by companies like Koch brothers, who are a huge fossil fuel industry in the States, paid for by them, you know, to continue to make the public go, well, maybe there's not climate change, or maybe it's not caused by human beings. Yeah,
well,
of course it is.
There are a lot of doubters and deniers, aren't there?
There still are, but they're now becoming just quite embarrassing, basically, because, you know, you're up against 99% of science. So that's beginning to go away. We're now allowed to talk about climate change without having to have, you know, the BBC balance of someone else going, no, it's not caused by human beings. You know, we can now frankly be out of the closet and worry publicly. And this is really worrying. What you're looking at is in our lifetime, you see. So for a long time, climate change, oh, well, you know, our younger generations have to deal with it. No, it's happening now. And, you know, in our lifetime, the sea levels will rise 3 feet. If you're imagining living in Bangladesh or in the Maldives, or
3 feet,
3 feet, it's just going to change the face of this species. So,
and it feels like something that has, although it's been talked about for a long time, it feels in some ways that it has crept up on us, because we always thought, well, it'll be other generations that have to deal with it.
That's the point. Yeah.
Hang on a second, now we're dealing with it, and what's gone from isn't it nice to have a bit of warm weather has suddenly become like, okay, this is worrying. When there's this, you always hear, there's always a freak year when certain flowers come out at the wrong time or what have you. But it feels like we're increasingly hearing that.
Yes.
You know, things happening in the wrong time of the year.
There's a fantastic department in Bristol University that talks about the psychology of why we're not doing anything about it, which is quite a good question if you bear in mind the fact that, you know, scientists themselves, the most popular meetings that are happening in huge science conferences, this has been going for 2 years now. Naomi Klein's written a lot about this, and Russell Brand picked up on it as well. He had it in the New Statesman when he did his magazine, but it's a very important point. For the past 2 or 3 years, when you have huge science conferences, the most popular area is the workshops being given by this new group of scientists who are saying climate change is the most important threat ever happened for the human species, you know, like a formula. Therefore, how do we deal with it? The only possible solution is civil disobedience and direct action. And this is scientists saying that, which I think is amazing. And that's really why I chose this story. Not only is it important, but obviously New International has been writing about this for years, but in December, in Paris, is the climate conference. Now, I was at the last major European climate conference in 2009 in Copenhagen. We were really seriously, violently treated by the police there. And it's very easy to look at all the footage. 1,000 people arrested at random from a march, and then having been cuffed and made to sit in the freezing snow for 5 hours.
This was at a
Copenhagen
conference.
2009, the climate conference, outside the Bella Centre. 1,000 people made to sit in the snow, Yasmeen, with their handcuffed for 5 hours. Can you imagine urinating in freezing? And then they get picked up and taken out to the edge of the city, where they're put in cages, large cages. This is all, you know, was covered by the mainstream media. It's a true story. So now we're really worried, because here we are in 2015. Unless there is a dramatic civil disobedience movement from the people, then we're going to have we're not going to be able to look at our grandchildren in the face. We really aren't.
What would that movement do?
Obviously, what's important is not to shut down or stop the negotiations happening, but to actually make a visible presence of the fact that the species themselves, the people themselves, are wanting much more than just negotiated deals that never come to reality. Because we've seen through this. You know, the internet's been invented. Everyone can find out what's really going on now. So all that's happened every time in the climate conferences is governments say things that make us sound like everything's going to be all right, and it never happens. Corporations are very powerful within the decision-making process. Everyone's beginning to realise this.
There are lobbies.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, the points that are going to be made over December, and I do believe that all members of this species need to get involved in this one way or another, and support it in one way or another, is the voice of just people themselves has to be raised louder than our so-called decision-makers, because our so-called decision-makers aren't really capable of making the kind of desperate changes that we need. So, you know, that's one to watch out for. Pop pickers, that's hashtag COP 2015. And New Internationalists are obviously doing a special issue about it that's going to be coming out that actual month.
Well,
that's in
hopefully
December.
this time you won't be sort of kettled in the snow, as it sounds like you were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope
not. Let's talk to Edward, who's in Shepherd's Bush, who wants to talk about this. Hi, Edward, how are you?
Hello, Yasmeen, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm making sure. I'm very bad with names, although I know you quite well.
You do. We talk almost every week, Edward. I hope you're well. Have you had a good week?
Yes, I'll say satisfactory. I won't say why it's satisfactory. That'll bore you.
No, it's, as long as you...
From my point of view, it's been quite interesting.
Good.
For the work I've done on the course I'm doing.
Well, listen, as long as you've had a good week, that's the main thing for me.
You, and you too.
Thank you, Edward.
And your friend in the...
Jamie.
Partner in the studio has had a good week as well, by the sound of things.
Yeah, it's not been bad. Thanks, Edward.
Sounds good, yeah.
Edward, what did you want to say about climate change?
Yeah, in 1954, talking about cancer was proved from cigarettes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And an actual body promoted cigarettes from 1954 to save the cigarette companies. I'd like to see them go extinct. I am being really aggressive, for want of a better word, against the cigarette companies. I still am, because so many more lives are lost through cigarettes in this country than on the roads. And that's saying something, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to ask yourself.
Before also, I think it was Winston Churchill. I'm not sure who the politician was, but we had big smokes, as you know, and they're called pea supers.
Pea supers, yeah.
Yeah, and he got rid of them in a trice. You know, I walked around the block once because I was bored, and it was in a smog. I couldn't see in front of me. I kept to the pavement in Shepherd's Bush. When I was small, this was.
Yeah.
And I kept to the pavement. I couldn't see where I was going. Luckily, there was no traffic in the back streets in those days. There weren't that many motors. And I came back, and my clothes were brown.
Wow.
And my mother opened the door.
Yeah.
This builds up. My mother opened the door, and the curtains. It came into the flat we had, the house we had, and it made the curtains go brown also.
Wow.
And also, he stopped that. I think it's Winston Churchill. I'm not sure who it was. Somebody can say who it was, because they would be around at that time as well. Millions of people around, even in those days. It's not so long ago. And he solved it in a trice. No coal fires. Now, the thing is
that what it was?
Climate change, we've got to get together. If it's the European Union, why doesn't it use... Everybody seems to be against everybody else. And we're falling out. This family is falling out. So why don't we get together on climate change? I mean, there are other things, of course, but climate change is very important. And for asthma sufferers, I'm not sure if you're an asthma sufferer, Yasmeen.
I am.
Not sure.
I am, Edward, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned it once before. And you know how it feels to gulp for air.
I'm telling you.
Well.
I've never been...
If it wasn't for that law in the 1950s to get rid of the smog, we may not, you and I, may not have been around. We may not be around now. Because of that law, he saved thousands of lives. Now, if we have climate change, which may affect growth and so on in the industry, of course it may. But there's a difference between theory and practice. In practice, something's got to be done. And I'm not being overcautious.
No,
because you brought up the subject and you're not overcautious.
No, Edward, I think he's raises a point there that for some people it's actually it's a terrifying seeing the change in front of their eyes and thinking nothing's being done.
Yeah, that's
knowing how much power industry has.
It's so daunting that people are doing the psychological equivalent of sticking their head in the sand. And I'm not putting people down. I think it's, because it's such a huge threat and you feel so disempowered. However, there's another way of looking at it, which is there's an amazing movement. It's an international movement out there of younger people mainly, but they're sort of informed by people who've been climate activists for a long time as well. They did a huge action. 1,500 people from around Europe shut down the biggest open coal mining area in Europe, in Germany, about 10 days ago. It's fantastic action. And they were saying this is part of the road to Paris. And these are people who are saying the last chance we have is to put our bodies in front of our convictions with pride. And our opinion is, we're called extremists. I'm a domestic extremist. I'm involved in, taking direct action and civil disobedience, non-violent direct action. I'm called an extremist. I would suggest...
And there'll be many people that disagree with your views and say, climate change is perhaps man-made. It's not, not man-made. It's nothing to do with us. It would just happen anyway.
Yeah, they're less and less, though. Yeah. But what I would suggest is that extremists are the people who aren't going to do anything. And that's the thing. And because we're getting wised up because of the internet, a lot of people are going... Actually, those politicians, they're not really representing us, are they? They're a little bit colluded with banks and financial institutions and corporations more than the well-being of the species. And this is why things are going to change. I think a proud, dignified human being is someone who's going to put their body in front of their convictions. That's what's going to happen. That's what's brilliant.
Jamie Kelsey-fry, I told you he speaks with passion. Edward, thank you for picking up the phone this evening. I'm looking forward to speaking to more of you. I know you've got your calls coming in. We will get to those, but first of all, it's very, very nearly 10:30. Let's get the latest travel with Rob now.
It's from 10 on BBC London 94.9.
Are you planning to go to Carnival, Jamie Kelsey-fry?
Yeah, I was listening to that and then thinking, why am I not? Because I'm older and because tomorrow you're going to love it. No, it's brilliant. But no, you're going to love this. Tomorrow I have the honour of being the compere for a dog show.
No.
Yeah, at the Clerkenwell Free Music Festival. It's their third year and it's a brilliant, brilliant festival.
You have arrived.
Yeah, it's big time.
I love it. So, are you hang on a second.
Yes.
Are you a dog expert?
Not in the slightest. You know what? My mate helps run it, and I went there last year, very hungover, and I thought, brilliant, I was going to have a relaxing time. And she said, quick, you've got to compare the dog show. Oh. And I thought, actually, that'd be quite funny. And then I realised, everyone's taking this really seriously.
Take it very seriously.
Yeah, but I got into it, and you have, certain different events, like, most similar looking owner and dog, and most waggiest tail.
Wow.
So that's tomorrow.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, just come down. It's so funny. You've got to see it. It's brilliant.
And where is that tomorrow in Clerkenwell?
Clerkenwell Free Music Festival from midday tomorrow. It's really good fun. Amazing bands. The Urban Voodoo Machine, the headlining. I mean, what more do you want?
It's all good. And
it's all good.
And it's a Sunday.
And it's a Sunday, yeah.
I think I'm going to be going, not tomorrow because I work on Sundays. I might get myself down to Carnival on Monday. It's been a while. It's been a while. I need to go. I need some jerk chicken. Sorry, such a cliche, but if you're going to have jerk chicken, you've got to do it at Carnival. Okay, we are with Jamie Kelsey-fry. We're at the moment talking climate change. We're going to move on shortly, but John is in Feltham. Hello, John.
Hello, Yasmeen. I actually do think we are in the first climate change crisis.
Great. I completely agree with you, John. I'm so glad you're saying that.
Because the scientists 15 years ago said the first thing that would happen with climate change is population movement. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about it all the time, aren't we now?
Yeah, exactly.
Australia's got a problem with it. India and we're in the same situation.
Yeah.
The Eastern Europe countries got problems as well. And the Southern Africa, we got population movements. And we always talk about how people are leaving countries because of war. And we're always talking about Syria, whereas I think the majority of people are coming from Africa, through Libya. Mm-hmm. And if you just look at what the wars are, because we're never told what the wars are, I've looked on the web and everything and checked it, they're all about resources.
Absolutely.
Did any of you know, I'm sure one of you did, but the expert, that Somalia, in the last 27 years, they've had 21 years of drought.
Yes.
Out of 27. Yeah. And Sudan is near the Sahara Desert, and it's spreading faster than it ever has.
Yeah.
And areas that used to get 60 inches of rain now only get 20 inches of rain.
Yeah.
So that's why they're moving out, because the warlords, that's what the war is all about. The warlords are fighting for resources, and that was the second thing that the scientists said, that there will be wars over resources like water and food growing areas.
Absolutely.
So that's what's happening in Northern Africa, and that's why people are moving out of those countries.
Yeah.
John, do you feel when you read it, I mean, I can almost hear it in your voice, do you feel a sort of a real connection with thinking we have a crisis here and nobody's doing anything?
That's why we can't do anything, because according to one particular website, they said that at this moment in time, I think this was in August, beginning of August, so a month ago, that the guess, it was a guess, I mean they admitted it was a guess, but they said up to 40 million people right at that time, 3 weeks ago, 40 million people were moving around this planet, moving out of their countries. So that's the first thing that the scientists said would happen.
Yeah.
And therefore, I believe it's absolutely correct. So I think we are actually in the first climate change crisis, and no government is doing anything about it. And a lot of the media keeps on talking about Syria as though that's where they're all coming from, when the majority are coming from Africa. So it's not really about wars like what's going on in Syria, although, of course, because of that war, areas that used to grow food and the water table is probably being polluted, and they can't grow anything anymore because of that war.
They've run out of resources. John, we're going to have to move on, but thank you for picking up the phone, John in Felton.
Thanks,
but not many people would make that connection off the top of their head about climate change and migration.
No, they wouldn't, and it's really important that we do. I mean, the figures that John was talking about was really, really interesting, and one of the stories you and I are going to talk about a bit later is the migrant story. Anyway, we've chosen that. The reason I picked that up on that is that at the moment, we have a serious migrant problem, as John is saying. Serious as let's look at that word migrant or refugee, to be honest.
It's the word that's causing
really refugees.
Isn't it?
If you're talking about people who are coming from Libya, I'd say it's very likely that they're refugees. Yeah. Refugee is someone who has to come, who has to get out because they're in danger, and a migrant is someone who chooses, some sort of capricious thing. Let's go to Leeds.
Live a different life.
Yeah, exactly. This is not what's happening. This is with refugees. As John's saying, there are going to be 100-fold more people who are going to be wanting to move out of their countries once, if we allow climate change to really go to the extremes that it could possibly go to, what they call catastrophic climate change. That's, tens of millions. At the moment, we've got hundreds of thousands, but it will be tens of millions who are making, put yourself in those people's shoes. We are so privileged to be born in this country. And perversely, this little island is one of the main reasons for a lot of climate change around the world, because we're, the kings of fossil fuels, the fossil fuel industry, along with America. But the fact is that, we're not going to suffer so in any way, really, for a long time. Whereas if you go down to the southern hemispheres, this is going to be really serious. You've got your polar caps melting, you've got seas dying. As John's pointing out, a very important point is you're going to have more and more rogue states as well. Okay, so that sort of perspective is frightening, but it's also, and you and Tasha are really good at this, when you have such an extraordinary crisis is also the opportunity for human beings to actually accelerate and move on and create new systems. Buckminster Fuller, who I love so much, I think is a very inspiring character. Buckminster Fuller said, if you wanted to pose a system, create an alternative system that makes the first system obsolete. I'll tell you what's obsolete.
Change. What's
obsolete is a corporatocracy, is the way that we're running economically and socially at the moment as a planet. This is an embarrassing financial system. It's an economic system based on infinite growth, but we've got finite resources. That's the work of fools. And we will look back at this time and be ashamed, because this species will get through it. But it's by letting go of this ridiculous economic system that's just causing a nightmare for a huge amount of the population and a legacy that will make it very difficult for you to look your grandchildren in the eyes.
I couldn't possibly comment, but I know lots of people listening
that's where it is at.
will agree.
Great.
0207 224 2000, by the way, if you want to comment on anything you are hearing this evening. Now, on to something quite different. Scary in an entirely different way, just because it's technology and it's change. Yeah. But the Facebook story that you brought in.
Yeah, this is great. So I wonder how many. I don't know the demographic of your viewers. I can sort of guess it, but a lot of people on Facebook. It turned out, listeners, on Monday, 1 billion people logged into Facebook. In other words, 1 in 7 people on the planet logged into Facebook. That's extraordinary, isn't it? You know, I'm 51, so I'm one of those, we're rare people. We will go eventually, but I can remember the pre-digital world.
Yeah.
You and I straddled pre-digital and post-digital. But, when we're gone, that this will be, nature for everyone, and it's quite, obviously it's a fantastic tool, but on another hand, there's so much evidence that's suggesting that this is not the great saviour, the great connector. It's almost the great sort of frippery maker. Suddenly people are kind of spending hours, obsessing about something they're writing on Facebook about a cat in a bottle. Oh, yeah, that's an obvious example, but more like an article that they've read, and they write their response. They read this article, we've got to do something about this. And then they go, right, I've done my bit. I'm going to get a pizza.
Direct action of a very different sort,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
But devil's advocate when it comes to social media, because I have a big love-hate relationship with it, as we all do.
Yeah.
I genuinely sort of, love posting stuff sometimes, and other times I think, I can't be bothered. I don't want to know about what you had for lunch or what have you. But other times I think, you know what, this is a great connector of people, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or what have you. And you sort of now can't imagine, as you said, you can't imagine a time before Facebook.
No.
And when people come off it, I've had many friends who go, I'm taking a break from Facebook or just come off it completely. You find that this is the hard thing, they are out of the loop, because everyone's news is posted on Facebook. The life news. It used to be that people would email round if they were getting married or whatever, or they had, some show they wanted you to see, or they'd had babies. Group emails would go around. That's all gone.
Absolutely.
And you forget the person who isn't on Facebook.
That's what keeps happening to me and my wife. People keep going, didn't you know John had a baby? And it's going, well, no, because we're not on Facebook.
Not on Facebook.
Yeah, I know.
So you choose not to be on Facebook.
Absolutely.
It's an active choice.
Yeah. I mean, I came off Facebook actually because they signed up to some hugely controversial NSA-backed deal in the States that was just one step too far in robbing you of your privacy and your details. It's everyone points out it's free, Facebook, but then if something like that is free, then you are the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you're the commodity.
You're the commodity, and I'm very worried about that.
Your contacts are the commodity.
But you're right about people going, you didn't know about the party. Oh, that's because you're not on Facebook. But there's a much more interesting thing I think that's happening here. When I was young, right, I'd be waiting for a bus, and I had absence. I would stare into the sky and click my heels and just gaze through my belly. And absence is going, because now when people are waiting for a bus, they're all going to get those little screens out, or those little mirrors out.
I wonder if our necks will evolve to be slightly continually bent because we're always looking at phones.
That's brilliant. You know what? Because of the Twitter thing and my bad eyesight, my neck's been affected by that, and I've just started doing Pilates, or I like to say pilates.
Pilates, I call it pilates as well.
But that part of what you're saying is true. People, their bodies are kind of getting crunched up because they're looking at their screens, and it's not good for us.
We're living the irony of living in a bubble when you are not aware of the person next to you, yet you're looking at the lives of hundreds of people online.
Yeah.
Hillary. Hello, Hillary and Ewell. How are you?
Well, I haven't spoken to you for ages, so I've rung in, all right.
Oh, Hillary, I've missed you.
I don't know who your guest is.
Oh, it's Jamie. Jamie Kelsey-fry.
Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Hillary. Lovely to hear from you. Hi.
And how old am I? 83. I'm not on Facebook, and I don't want to know.
Good on you.
I go on to Twitter just to find out. By chance, I went into my DJ grandson's website and realised I could get on to Twitter without paying or doing anything.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping my eye on him and occasionally sending him because he took me to Royal Ascot one year, and then there was a yippee on there from a lady this year saying, "Oh, Neil Page is taking me to Ascot." So I quickly emailed him and said, "Who's this girl you're taking to Ascot?" And not your grandma. Well, you didn't want to come, Grandma. He said, "She's just a friend." So, but anyway,
she's not just a friend.
I email and I'm on the phone, as Yasmeen knows.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get all involved on Facebook. I'm sorry.
No.
My private life is my private life. They can share all they want to share, but I'm not sharing all mine.
I don't, but you know what, Hillary? I do not blame you. I do use Facebook.
I think you younger ones, and it's part of your job, you should, shall I say, Yasmeen?
Yes, it is. There's a large part of it. I actually keep my Facebook private because I've got, you know, pictures of my niece and stuff like that, and I think I don't want family photos kind of getting out there, and I'm also not keen on posting so many personal photos because that whole thing about Facebook kind of owned them, which always worries me.
I think it's dreadful, but it's just me. I'm a bit old-fashioned, you know.
No, a lot of people agree with what you're saying, actually, Hilary.
Do they?
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I'm glad you do, because I don't know sort of what age group you're in, but you sound a delight, so that's fine.
I'm 51. I was born in 1964.
Oh, right. So you're sort of a Simon Leddyman, something about his, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think
James Max thinks he's coming to the end of the world because he's 45 now. So.
Do you know what, Hilary? I went to a gig, you know, one of those pop concert things, right? And it was a band who I absolutely adore. I went to them a while ago, Cardiacs. They're the best thing I've ever heard in music. Anyway, we're all about the same age in the audience, and I'm not making this up, Hilary. I heard 3 people in what we call the mosh pit, because we're all dancing, but we're all much older with big bellies. I heard 3 people over that gig go, "Oh, my back!" And then they're just like walking off all crippled and sitting down.
There was a wonderful thing on the proms last night because it was a swing concert.
Wow.
And it was absolutely brilliant. I've never heard anything like it. I must get it up on iPlayer.
What, so swing music, like Glenn Miller swing music?
Oh, well, really swingy. I mean, it was a girl singing and 2 bands, and they were doing from the 1920s to the 1950s, and it was a prom concert, and it was absolutely brilliant.
That sounds great. You've got an amazing energy, Hilary, I tell you. You know, if you're my grandmama, I'm taking him out to a gig. I tell you, you're brilliant.
I've had a terrible week, that's what I was going to tell Jasmine.
Why?
Why,
Hilary? As she knows, I live in the Granite, what is not Nikki calls my granny bit. My family have been away for a fortnight camping. Down our long road, we have new gas stuff being put in, right? Whole gas mains. My son just knocks my side of the house, because it's all one house, really. Just as they're going, he said, "Oh, Mum," he said, "the gaffer's been around." He said, "They're going to get to our bit when I'm away." So I said, "Oh, yes." He said, "I've told him to come and make himself known to you, so you'll probably make them tea when they're on your bit." He said, "They may have to take up our new drive."
Oh.
Wow.
Now, I will not say who paid for it, right?
Oh.
But 11,500 this drive cost about 12 months ago.
Oh,
so
that's a bad
I said
week.
over my dead body. So I've had a really wonderful British workman. I can't speak more highly of this young man who's moved down from Bradford to get him a better job down here. He has bent over backwards about this, what he's got to do in my drive or not do in my drive. And he almost worked half the other night because he said, "Your family are coming back on Saturday, aren't they, Hilary?" I said, "Well, no, it's wet weather down in Cornwall. They're coming back Friday." Now, he had it all done and sorted in time for them to come back last night.
Oh, you don't often hear stories of good workmanship like that.
When I said to him, "Well, what about the blocks? How are they going to match up the colour?" He said, "Hilary," he said, "I have picked out all the blocks because I've dug the big hole." He said, "I have personally washed them all." He said, "All they've got to do is put them back in." And apparently when I was out this morning, he came down to see if my son was very satisfied with it. And so it's my faith in British workmen has come back.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, Hilary, so
all's
well that ends well, my lovely.
Yes, yes. So,
well, it's nice to hear from you because it has been a very long time.
I'm going to listen because I didn't know you were on. It's all got funny lately. Different people have been on at all times.
No, I think I was away once for a wedding, but I've been here otherwise, Hilary.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
I knew you were back. You were doing Saturdays and Sundays, but I wasn't sure whether you were doing Saturdays and Sundays.
Oh, no, I just do Saturdays. I think I covered Sundays once. Yeah, it's just Saturdays for me. I did cover Sunday once, I think, but no, I took 1 week off.
And is life not too bad with you? Because I knew you had a tragedy. So.
Yeah, it's good. It's better. It's better, is what I was saying.
That's lovely. I'll let you take other calls.
But thank you, Hilary.
Your guest's a delight, and I'm glad we've had a chat.
So are you. Oh.
You take good care, Hilary. Lovely to hear from Hilary in the Granex. I know it's in Ewell, but it's the Granex that we need to know about. What a great word that is as well.
What is the Granex? Is that an area, a place?
No, the granny flat in the Granex.
The Granex.
Now you get
That's
it.
Fantastic. Do you know, she said, I think she said Hillary said my grandson is a DJ, and I think she said DJ grandson. I was just thinking, what a great name for a DJ.
DJ grandson.
Hey, everybody, it's DJ grandson. We're going to rock.
Can you imagine? Everyone for a moment would be quite, and then be like, that's actually quite cool.
Yeah, it's quite cool, yeah. I should allow myself to smile.
Brian from New Jersey has tweeted, bless him, because he tweets every week. Hello, Brian, I hope you're well. You've got a new profile photo. See, I noticed. Very dandy sunglasses, that's all I'm going to say. I finally bought new sunglasses this week, and I'm going to be careful how I say it, but, you know, it has been raining cats and dogs, so I don't think they'll be needed, but never mind. It was nice to...
Why do you wear what's glasses and rain connected to? I don't understand.
I don't need sunglasses, do I?
Sunglasses?
Yeah.
I see. Wrong time to buy them.
No, I know. I was quite pleased because I actually found one that fit and don't fall off, and then now, never mind.
Now the sun's gone.
I had my friend come to visit this week, and we had a staycation, and I've been talking for weeks now about what should we do in London, because, you know, I've got a friend coming to stay, and I'm kind of rediscovering London and what have you.
No, yeah, it's great doing that through someone else.
It was lovely. It was lovely, but it chucked it down every day. Be careful what I say there. By the way, welcome along if you've just joined us. It's Yasmeen here with you right the way through to 2 a.m. as ever on a Saturday evening, and I'm joined by Jamie Kelsey-fry, and we are going through Jamie's stories of the week, of the day, the things that have jumped out at him from the papers. Where would you like to go to next?
Well, there's a story that I know BBC Radio London's been talking a bit about, but it's worth just visiting for a little while to say. The Department of Work and Pensions, and a story about thousands have died soon after being found fit to work by the DWP's benefit tests. So the reason I'm just bringing it back up, for the sake of the listeners who don't know about it, 1,000 people have died within 6 weeks of being found fit to work by the government's disability benefit test. Departmental figures show. The Department of Work and Pensions battled for months not to release the numbers, with its Chief Minister, Ian Duncan-Smith, at one point telling Parliament they did not exist. So I know the people who have done the Freedom of Information Act to get this out. A guy called Mike Sivier. And what's interesting is Mike Sivier had done the Freedom of Information Act about 2 years ago, where he also revealed figures such as this. Now, what's distressing is the fact that, first of all, there's a big focus on, so these people have been put through the indignity of a work capability assessment test while they are so ill with an illness that they shortly will die afterwards, okay? So this is something that we should be ashamed of. If you look at the amount of money that the government thinks is being fiddled by benefits through disability, they themselves, according to their own figures, and Mike Sivier revealed this himself, they say about 0.5% is being fiddled. But they are putting these people through this situation over and over again. Okay. Now, originally, famously, it was Atos. Atos have been sacked because they were so vastly incompetent and vastly cruel. It's now being moved over to Maximus, who are proving to be pretty similar. And what's happening in this country is we are, under the guise of necessary cuts, austerity cuts, we are attacking the millions of people who are living with disabilities, literally attacking. The bedroom tax is doing the same thing. And I spoke to someone, I was in touch with someone from the Disabled People Against Cuts, who I recommend your listeners, if you want to support this, get in touch with Disabled People Against Cuts and support them in every way that you can. And I was in touch with one of the people from them today, and he was pointing out these figures of people who are dying soon after these work capability assessments are horrific, but you've also got to remember the thousands of people out there who are regularly being put through these tests when they're so ill, and they have to go through it over and over again. This is not the way that you treat someone in the 6th richest country in the planet. You know, we are so loaded compared to the rest of the world, and we should be ashamed of the way we're treating our people living with disabilities, the way that we are in a survey, a European, Northern Hemisphere of the Planet survey of children in schools, ours are the second most unhappy in the planet.
Miserable. Yeah, I remember that.
Our teenagers, because I work a lot with young people as a teacher, and you know, our teenagers are becoming increasingly more and more miserable. We have 1 million people on food banks. It goes on in a country that's so loaded, and it's something to be ashamed of. And if you want to start somewhere, where do I start to support? You should support Disabled People Against Cuts and actually make a stand. You can't continue to treat human beings like this.
And this is an disgraceful headline. You know, awful. Thousands have died soon after being found fit to work by DWP benefit tests. As you said, is there a causal effect though? Has it been proved?
That's what's really interesting, a really important question. So their response, they're spun, you know, obviously everyone's got PR in groups like this. Their response has been, you know, the figures can't necessarily be connected to the idea that, you know, in any way we're responsible, but it's just sort of smudging it, you know, the reality.
So their own mortality report says
yes.
that it can't be assumed, and a causal effect cannot be assumed from the new numbers.
Absolutely. So disabled people against cuts as well, who are very wise, they're saying we are now going through these results with a fine-tooth comb ourselves. And also Mike Sivier, who did the Freedom of Information Act, he's saying it took a long time for them to actually admit that they had the figures, even longer for me to actually get the figures from them. But even then, there are figures that they have that they're not releasing. So, you know, it's something that they're ashamed of. That's the instinct that I've got. And that's what I get from the people who have actually been looking into this. But if you look into the reports by Mike Sivier, Vox Populi, his tag is, or Disabled People Against Cuts, you decide for yourself whether, in fact, no, we're just being misleading, it's just unfortunate, they just happen to die anyway. Or just look at the figures for yourselves, listeners, and decide, no, maybe, actually, they have just lost contact with any humanity or reality to be treating people like this. And I'd say, if you look at it for yourselves...
People become statistics.
Yeah, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. You know, people should support Disabled People Against Cuts. It'd be great if they did. It's really important.
Jamie, thank you for bringing that story in. We've got the last few minutes, and I absolutely want to do this Amazon
great
story.
Great one to finish off.
Yes,
yeah,
we have to do this.
You know, Arundhati Roy, that brilliant, beautiful writer from India. So she came over and gave a cracking speech a couple of years ago that we went to. She was talking for about an hour. What a speaker! She's cracking. She was talking about the people in the mid-band of India who have been living in the forests for 20,000 years, and they're being attacked by the government and the army, who are taking their land because corporations have bought the land. And she went on for ages about those indigenous people. And at the end, she said, now, you may all think that I've been talking about this just to defend the rights of these indigenous people who've been wiped out by corporate greed. But I'm not. There's something much more deeper here. Unless we connect with their ancient wisdom, because they were able to live sustainably, unless we connect with their ability to live sustainably, because we've lost that ability, unless we nurture and connect with that ability, we're gone. Because we're not living sustainably, we're living the opposite of sustainability.
And it's the knowledge.
It's their knowledge. So this story comes from the Yanomamo people in Brazil. And basically what's happened over there is, you know, in the Amazon, obviously, it's hugely rich with millions of different species. And these people, the Yanomami people, they've been living there for 10s, 20s, 50s, hundreds of thousands of years. And so it's a very highly developed society. And, of course, they do live, because they're wise, a lot wiser than us lot, they live sustainably with that forest. But they've come to have an in-depth knowledge of everything that grows there. And so these people are herbalists. Our studies have shown that whereas shamanism is primarily the domain of men among the Yanomami, healing with plants is traditionally primarily the domain of women. And then it goes on to discuss these two men who are absolute masters of healing plants.
Wow. And
they've worked with scientists, and it's now ended up in Kew Gardens, I really wanted to give a shout out for how amazing Kew Gardens are. And what they're doing is they have created a book written in the Yanomami language that details all these incredible medicinal herbs that they use that can cure so many things. There's whole many reasons why this is important to draw attention to. One of them is a very big thing for new internationalists. We have to preserve indigenous tribes, and we have to stop indigenous tribes being wiped out for people greedy politicians and governments. But also as important, there is a knowledge that I would suggest is wiser than the wisdom we seem to be operating by today. I think that it's not wise to be a species that says that an economic system based on infinite growth but which relies on finite resources, for us to think that that's wise, then we've just lost the plot entirely. So it's wonderful to kind of have an article where you're celebrating actually what real wisdom is. Real wisdom is a species that looks after each other, that creates a sustainable future for their grandchildren and their grandchildren to come. That's real wisdom. What you would call the way we're living is something not wise. I don't know what name you'd come up with it.
What's the opposite of unwise?
Yeah, maybe unwise. I'd say embarrassing, really. That's the, you know, because you've got to stay positive. You know, the stuff that I study, particularly through New Internationalists,
the thought
you could get really miserable, you know. But
well,
you've got to stay positive. And I think, you know, just...
thought of losing the knowledge that these people have.
That's the key.
And the irony when you see something about, but it's on a much lighter scale, but you see articles in the Western press about, we've suddenly discovered that turmeric is really good for you, and all this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
my mum just laughed. She's like, they've
right.
just discovered now. Have they? Just discovered now.
Yeah.
We've been using this for however many years as a, you know, as an anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, all this kind of thing.
Absolutely. And the detail that they, I mean, exactly that example, but the detail they go into in this book is extraordinary. Some of the stuff they got in there are like really specific mixtures of herbs that treat certain illnesses, ailments, you know, everything. It's fantastic. You know?
I love the fact that the book They reference the book, which is, as it says, it's written in their own language for the first time, and the authors are Yanomami et al. It's just
That's right, I know.
I love it. It's the entire tribe has been name checked. What a fabulous and hopefully positive story, because they're getting to preserve that knowledge.
Yeah,
and that's the main thing.
And you know, if we just go one step further, let's get to preserve them as well. That's what's really important.
That is the main thing.
I used to live in Thailand for 3 years in the 80s, and I remember I had a motorbike, so I used to go and visit the villages because I could speak Thai.
Of course you did, Jamie. Because what else would you have done in the 80s?
Get on the motorbike with a couple of bottles and some fags, and go off and stay with the village and turn up and chat with them all night. You know, sharing my whiskey. Anyway, one night, a bunch of blokes, they were going, so is it true that in your country you pay people, you go and see these people and you pay them if you're feeling depressed, and they will cheer you up, you know? And I was going, yeah, man, it's a massive business. They're called psychotherapists or you know, psychologists. And they were hooting with laughter, and they were going, don't you have friends in your country? Do you have anything called friends? And I just thought, you know what, there's a hell of a lot of truth in what you're talking about.
We've got radio stations, that's what we've got. See what I did there? See what I did? Nice. Jamie Kelsey-fry, our time is up, sadly.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Thank you
being here.
so much for coming in. What a joy you are. If people want to come and say hello, you are on Twitter, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you. So, at Jamie Kelsey-fry, JamieKelseyfry, and of course, New Internationalist is at New Int, or if you want to go to the website, newint.org. There's 10 issues out every year. Our current one is about Syria, and our next one, of course, is going to be about climate change and Paris in 2015.
There you go. All of the plugs. All of the plugs. It's all good. Jamie, thank you so, so much. He will be back with us very soon.
Thanks a lot.
One of these days, I am sure. Right, it's just coming up to 11. Let's get a travel update with Rob now.